Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us again. This time we are talking about smart cities, which is fantastic topic to talk about. And we are here with Stefano Tempesta from Australia. Hey, Stefano.
Hey Reza, hello and hi everybody. Thanks for having me. It's a great
Oh, thank
opportunity.
you. Thank you for joining us from Melbourne. You are based.
That's
Can
right.
you?
I'm in
Yeah.
Melbourne now. Great place. I'm obviously not from here, from Australia. I'm originally from Italy, but I live now in Melbourne for the last about 7 years. So quite excited to be part of the community. And yes, here we
That
are.
sounds great. That sounds great. In terms of like before we start talking about this topic, can you introduce yourself a little bit about your background, what you do these days?
Yes, no, thank you. So look, I consider myself really a technology advisor or architect, someone that likes to work with different technologies, always on the cutting edge, and trying to implement, the best solution for customers. So whatever is on technology A, B, or C, the important thing is that it resolve a problem and adds value to businesses. I've done this many years in my career in different countries where I live, in different organizations. Currently, I'm a CTO at a company called Connecting Software and Microsoft Regional Director and MVP on Azure and AI, so very active in the community. And I recently started an advisory collaboration with the Department of Industry in Australia on the national blockchain roadmap. We are going to talk about it because it has a massive impact on the future of smart cities.
Great, thank you. Thanks for the introduction. So the topic today is smart cities and how they work. And let's start that with what is actually a smart city, what is the definition of smart city, and why that is important.
It is more and more important, and the reason is twofold. One is there is a lot, obviously, of talking around technologies like artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and even blockchain and quantum sometimes in the right context, outside of the buzzword that's covers these technologies at the moment. And all these technologies seems like a lot of advanced, but they also bring some concerns, on privacy, on protection, security. So the use case is a smart city where all these technologies can bring value to citizens, smart citizens. But there is a second aspect, which is probably driven by the situation that we are living in, in the last months in this year, 2020, around COVID-19, where we've been working remotely, economies has been impacted. So the concept of smart city has evolved from a purely technology to a place or a network where people feel safer, is a greener environment, can connect and work from wherever they are, and is even more inclusive, which is another important aspect to consider. So smart city has evolved from being purely for the technical people to enlarging as a concept, not just as a place for people that can work remotely. So you can be part of a smart city even if you work in the countryside, but you have the necessary connection to be inside the city, virtually speaking, and be connected and do your job in the best way possible.
Great, thank you. So based on what you mentioned already some of the challenges that we have in building like a smart city or implementing a smart city, such as taking care about privacy and think about that. Any other challenges you see in working with the smart cities?
There are challenges back to the concept of a city itself. For example, politics. So if this smart city is not a place, not a physical place, who is the government? No, who is in control, or do we need a control? So, can a smart city cross geographical boundaries, political boundaries, and have a network of smart cities that are not part of, say, Australia, New Zealand, USA, UK, but is cross geographies and cross politics in some way? We'll see. There is no solution at the moment, but there is a lot of conversation around it.
Correct. So considering like this whole concept of like a smart city, it looks like a quite like big project because bringing all of these advanced technologies and using it in a right way. How do you go through like planning of an implementation of such thing? Do you have like milestones, and do you have like special steps that you say like this is like how smart is the smart city, or how do you go through that process?
Yeah, that's a good question. And how smart is a smart city? Because we like to put the label smart to anything, a smartphone and other things, smart screen and so on. But the point is, how smart is that? And in this case, smart city, as I mentioned, is not just about technology. So when we're planning for smart city, there are some great examples, of cities that are already planning for this technology advancement. But I said it's not just about technology. So yes, you do need a team of technical people that work on the foundation of it. But this is a real cross-functional team that you have to put in place, which includes lawyers, includes politicians, include also people from the infrastructure side. Now, without mentioning companies, but recently I've been talking to builders, so people organizations that actually build buildings, and we were discussing how can you make a smart building, and they say, well, we can do it because it is safer, it's greener, we reduce the impact on materials that can be sourced from renewable sources. They are more robust also from earthquakes or fires in the buildings. So you can build smart, which is not just about technology, but is using materials that are way better from an environment perspective. So smart in this context is not just about your cameras that track you what you do and then stream data to an IoT central and there is some analytics, some machine learning. That's part of it. But smart here means environment. It means more inclusive, so there are less barriers for the less able. And also it means less politically or governmental dependent, where there is a more sustainable process for the citizens to have a part in the city without depending on central authorities that we know sometimes are limiting or a bottleneck or a challenge when they become too bureaucratic.
Right. Thank you. You answered actually like one of my other questions as well in the middle of that, which was good, like how to build a team that builds like a smart city. And you mentioned that like there should be like different skills and different types. How do you see like public sector and private companies, how they can collaborate in doing work like this? How that collaboration is important?
It is essential part of it, and I can be very, very specific. So I mentioned at the beginning about the government in Australia. They have specifically the Department of Industry. They have created 2 working groups to look into the national blockchain roadmap. This is public knowledge. So Australia is working on a national blockchain roadmap. Now, blockchain is a technology that may or may not be mainstream in the next years, is strongly associated to cryptocurrency, so may not be obvious from everybody's perspective why blockchain is important from a government, but there are a lot of applications outside of cryptocurrency that are valid from blockchain. So the 2 working groups are on supply chain and credentials. I'm collaborating as an advisor on the credential side of it. Supply chain is all about proof of provenance. So making sure that whatever containers, parcel, whatever materials is being shipped and transferred along the supply chain, you have control and you have a tracking of where this is coming from. Blockchain can help. And credentials is also about identity. So giving citizens the possibility to own their own identity and to have their credentials, like your university degree or your driving license, verified without going through the tedious work of signing PDF files, uploading, scanning, and all these cumbersome process that takes days or even weeks sometimes. So work in progress. Back to your question, private and public should work together exactly for this, because government, public may define some processes or some services that are necessary for a country, for people to live. And the private provide the insight, the technology, the advisory services that are necessary to make it happen. So think of a government as the enabler, and also someone that has the requirement to make it happen. Sorry, the other way around. Think as a private as the enabler, so someone that has the capacity to make it happen. A government as someone that provides a service to the citizen. If they work together, then this can happen in a very nice way.
Great, thank you. Do we have some existing samples of a good smart city implementation already?
There are some implementations. I have a connection, for example, with the city of Sydney here in Australia, where there are activities around at the moment a bit more on the technology side, so connecting the city and providing access to information around, for example, traffic management and safety in street. Sydney is a great city with a lovely harbor, but it suffers a lot by traffic congestions. So the idea here is to have cameras that identify, for example, hotspot for traffic and divert traffic in a smart way. When I say smart way, it means that identify peak times or reduce or channel cars into one direction only, block some lanes, or even trams and buses to increase the frequency over a period of time and decrease some when it's not needed. So being more conscious of what people actually need and adjust public and private transportation according to this need. This is one example. The other example that I was across a couple of years ago, I lost a bit of contact, but is quite important as well, is in the Emirates. So the city of Dubai and Abu Dhabi together. They were working on a traditional digital transformation process in removing a lot of paper-based forms and processes that happen into more of digitized format. It'll sound simple because at the end you're just removing a paper form with an online one. How innovative is that? That should be something for granted. But the point is that it's not just about the digitization of these forms, it's the switch from a mindset perspective. People that are used to do these over and over again, and then suddenly you put a form on a web browser or on a mobile app. Some people that are not tech savvy may get lost. So the transformation there was not only on digitizing these forms, but also in providing a sort of change management, and also learning and awareness to everybody in the country in order to ramp up, in order to skill up on the use of technology.
Great, thank you for that. How do you define the boundaries of a smart city? Is it always like the geographic boundary, or it might go further? How does it work?
Yeah, so look, traditionally, the term smart city has been associated also to to a geography, as I mentioned, Sydney or Dubai, and it's natural, because everybody looks into their own garden and say, okay, let's make my city smarter, let's make my city technology advanced, and that's normal. But now recently there has been a trend or a sentiment of expanding this. Why are we limited by geography when technology can basically remove the limit of geography itself? Now that we've been working remotely for some time, I really can work from wherever I am. Now you see a green screen below me, which is actually a wall, but I could be here in Bali on the beach and take this call and work remotely, right? So I can be really anywhere. So why limiting the geography of where we live to be smarter, when instead we can be smarter anywhere we are, and safer and more and greener, more environmentally conscious from anywhere we are? So this is a conversation in progress. I think the major challenge, it's not me thinking, but the major challenge is the political impact, because as soon as you cross boundaries from geography and political concern, then there is aspect of, okay, who is in charge from a government perspective, which currency to use, which laws apply, which even data privacy things, which regulation are expected. In Europe, I'm from Italy, there is a GDPR that respects the privacy of people across most of the countries in Europe. But if your smart city is a little bit in Europe and a little bit somewhere else, then the same regulation doesn't apply. So which one then will apply? And that's a conversation that still doesn't have an answer, and is probably something for to address as we evolve the concept of smart city outside of geography.
Correct. Yeah. And like based on what you said, it is also like probable that we have something like such as the smart countries, like these smart cities evolves into smart countries. How do you see that? How the governance would work for that?
Look, that is I don't know, a dream of mine or something. I believe in a world without boundaries and without the passport, with safety in place, yes, with the necessary security and all the necessary controls to live in a safe environment. Absolutely, yes. But at the same time, I believe that our society has evolved to a point where we need the freedom of movement of people and goods. But to do that, we need something that we are still missing. We need a strong identity, an identity that we own as a citizen, as people, as human beings, and then we share with any other entities, government, institutions, to verify our credential. A recent study by what's the name? The World Trade Group or organization. Yes, that's it. Have reported that there is over 1 billion people without an identity. 1 billion. 1 in 7 people on Earth in our world don't have a form of identity, even a physical identity. Most are in sub-Saharan area of Africa, so we understand that. So we're not talking about your Facebook ID, your LinkedIn ID, your Microsoft account. Here we're talking about any form of identity. So they don't exist to access to services, to access to employment, to access to education. This is a massive impact, because how can we build a country without even having a possibility to identify citizen, people that live into that? So the next phase for me, that I'm also collaborating with the government here on the credentials and identity working group, is to define public, broadly accessible and accepted standard for identity that can be owned by the individual, not by government. That sometimes may be corrupted or extremely bureaucratic or extremely slow. And the idea is to organization like Identity Foundation or ID 2020 to bring IDs, to bring identities of any type, not just digital, to these areas that are less developed. Once we sort that, then we can start talking about smart country. Smart country is an evolution, is a vision, is something that we want to get to, but we need to start from the foundation. We need to start from the people and make sure that everybody has access to it. Not just you and me that have access to a computer and we live in a first world country and we are extremely privileged. Everybody needs to have access to their identity and be in control of their identity, because this removes slavery, this removes black market, this removes any trafficking of human beings. Is an essential part of making this happen before we can be smarter. You cannot be smarter if we have these situations in the world yet.
Great, thank you for that. So to wrap up, what do you see are, let's say, the success factors of a smart city project, or what are the pitfalls of that? What makes the project fail? What makes the project succeed?
Yeah, so for me, one of the criteria for success, as you mentioned, is to make sure that we plan for delivery of incremental changes. That where a smart city is not something futuristic that then doesn't have a actual application in real life. We want to identify the areas that actually make an impact. If monitoring traffic make an impact, focus on that, resolve the challenge, and then tackle the next one. If creating a digital identity is another point of resolution, focus on that, resolve that problem, and then move into the next one. I see or I heard some projects that were starting building a big concept of everything connected, everything wireless, everything tracked, Big Brother situation, and failed, or at least they didn't take off the way they wanted, because they were over-engineered, they were focused on technology without keeping in mind what the problem they were trying to solve. So my recommendation and the way I approach this sort of projects in general is tackle a challenge that is absolutely a must-have, that you have made the necessary research that can give an impact. Focus on it, resolve it, and then you move to the next one. As you move to the next one, you will give people the possibility to adjust to this change, because you need to take into consideration that introducing technology may have an impact on people that are not used to technology. So as you move into the next project, the next one, people adjust to change, and then they will absorb. If you do too much at once, you risk to lose control, to have a massive impact on people's life, and you just lose credibility when you don't deliver any longer.
Great. That's a great advice, to focus on the most impactful area first and then move to the next. Awesome. Is there anything else that you want to mention that I haven't asked about?
No, look, for me, the invite is for everybody to start, start to do some research on what you can do to make your little environment even a bit smarter, and try to identify what smart means for you. Because what means for you, Reza, it may be different from me, may be different from someone else. Smarter is more technology. That's great. Work on that area. Smarter means a better impact on the environment, a solar panel, do it. Smarter means more inclusive, so removing barriers. So people with, wheelchairs can move around the city without bumping into holes in the pavement all the time, that's great. Do that as well. So we can do a lot of things. There is a nice initiative by Microsoft called AI, Artificial Intelligence for Good, which covers some area of AI, so the application of AI for Earth, so for the environment, for cultural preservation, for health. My invite is for everybody to pick one of these areas and think, how can, with my knowledge, with my skills, help the world get a little bit better? If we start little, then we can get bigger to a city, then we can get to a smart region, and then we can get to a smart country, and one day we'll get to a smart world.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for your really valuable insight. How our audience can reach out to you if they have any questions? What is the best way?
I connect with LinkedIn with everybody. I strongly believe in professional networking. There is always an opportunity in there. So LinkedIn is my recommended way of getting in touch. And then you will find me around in communities. Now be more virtual than in presence, but definitely around communities, events that happen online or in presence. And I said Microsoft Regional Director and MVP, so you will see me around in that space as well.
Great. Thank you again for all the information, and your contact information is also down in your video feed here, so our audience can use it. Thank you, our really valuable audience, for watching this. We will come back with another video. Thanks, Stefano, for your time, and until then, stay safe.
Thanks, Reza, and thanks everybody.